The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
And hello again, wrestling fans. Welcome to another edition of This Week in History. We are going to look at the week of April 22nd to the 28th. We have our regular segments with Monday Night Wars. This time it's going to be WWE versus TNA. And, of course, the Superstar Spotlights with Chris Candido and Kane in the spotlight. You got birthdays, deaths, headlines, title changes, big events, all that coming up. Thank you for joining us on our different platforms, whether it's Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcast from. We are on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube, so you can always watch us visually on those platforms. And, of course, we want to give a shout-out to our other sponsor that I still have to put into the addition, and that is Hammerlock Pure Wrestling. It is a local independent wrestling organization happening here in London, Ontario, and surrounding areas. And if you missed our last show the other weekend, just this past weekend in Strathroy, you missed a really great show, rowdy crowd. And I want to let you know that you can still catch us Saturday, May 14th in Elmer, Ontario. Doors open at 6 p.m., bell time 7 p.m., and we're bringing back the golden age of professional wrestling. Just announced earlier today, CC Moss is going to make her Hammerlock debut. And, of course, as I've told you before, I'm making my in-ring debut as the ring announcer for Hammerlock. So it's going to be an exciting show, and you don't want to miss it. And one other shout out to people in this area of London, Ontario, and anywhere in Ontario, if you are willing to drive here, Shockstock is back, and you want to check out Shockstock this weekend, starting Friday through Sunday, and a lot of great entertainment and movies to be watched during that time. Karaoke, DJ dance party with DJ Philo, and so much more. You don't want to miss it. A guy who knows all about Shockstock and wrestling history is our very own Jonesy over in Niagara Falls. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. And yeah, it's Shockstock weekend, and I've been there a couple of times. I like horror. I'm not a super fan, but definitely great people, and a place you can be yourself.
Yep, really great bunch of guys. Shout out to some of the original scumbags, being Jake, Nathan, and DJ Philo. And can't go wrong with catching up with some independent horror flicks.
Yeah. And I think there is a special prize if you find Duker sleeping somewhere.
Usually, yes. But we are going to talk about history, and I'll give another shout out to Shockstock happening this weekend later on at the end of the show at the Ramada Inn here in London. But let's do some history, starting off with some headlines.
All right, 24 years ago, April 22nd, 1998, during a live episode of Thunder, Marcus Buff Bagwell was severely injured after taking a bulldog off the second rope. He would lay on the mat for 11 minutes before being moved to the hospital. He would suffer severe damaged vertebrae and spinal shock and would require the use of a wheelchair for some time.
Yeah, it's kind of bad news that happened to him on that one, and people were really shocked, as you said. But then WCW, of course, made it into a storyline when he came back, and they did it again, and people thought, oh no, and that's when he turned heel on Rick Steiner and joined up with Scott. So, I don't know. It's the gray line on that whole thing, especially when it's that close to reality.
Well, Buff is the stuff. 12 years ago, April 22nd, 2010, WWE released some employees, including Shelton Benjamin, Mickey James, Sho Funaki, Jimmy Wang Yang, Jesse Gordy, Katie Lee Burchill, and Mike Knox. Katie Lee Burchill, any relation to a pirate?
That's what the storyline was, that she was apparently his sister. And before things went sideways and he became a pirate, before that, and they ended up dropping her last name of Burchell at that time, she also went over to TNA and was Winter. But in WWE, there had been rumors that they were going to do some sort of incestuous relationship between brother and sister Paul and Katie Lee, which that never happened, but that was a rumored possibility.
17 years ago, April 23rd, 2005, we all learned how much WCW cost the WWE. Through a press release, $6.6 million. That included all expenses from getting to the end of the whole process. That took about 5 years. 15 years ago, April 23rd, 2007, on Raw from London, England, Raw produced one of its best matches. Shawn Michaels defeated WWE champion John Cena in a non-title match. The contest lasted almost an hour and has been voted best Raw match ever, twice by the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And I can say I've never actually seen that match.
Yeah, it's a decent match. It's a rematch about a month later after WrestleMania 23 when Cena beat Shawn Michaels in Detroit.
All right. 39 years ago, April 24th, 1983, AWA President Stanley Blackburn officially strips Hulk Hogan of the AWA World Heavyweight Championship and erased his win from the record books due to using a foreign object. The same object that Bobby the Brain used on Hogan earlier in the match. I'm not sure if he was actually the Brain yet. Just says Bobby Heenan here.
Yeah.
38 years ago, April 24th, 1984, a returning Ken Patera returns to the WWF and picks up his first win since serving 2 years in prison for property damage at a McDonald's and assaulting a police officer.
Gotta love
I would never have thought Ken Patera, especially the Ken Patera that came back and was more colorful than the one beforehand.
Yeah, who knows? And I think he was with Mr. Saito on that one.
I do believe. 32 years ago, April 24th, 1990, at a WWF television taping in San Antonio, in a semi-final match for the IC belt, Rick Martel and Roddy Piper fought to a double DQ, thus giving Mr. Perfect a bye by the finals of the tournament. And man, if anyone could see the horrible editing that I did on that. See, I never did very well in school and editing and English and shit like that. Not this guy. Interesting that match, a Perfect against Tito, actually was taped the night before. The pre-internet spoiler days.
Yeah, I love spoilers. And actually, that tournament, it was after Warrior had won the WWE title or WWF belt from Hogan at WrestleMania 6 and had to give up the Intercontinental title. And I actually wanted Mr. Perfect to get the belt. So even though he was heel, it was the best move for them to do that.
42 years ago, April 25th, 1980, both the WWF and NWA World Heavyweight Champions were defended in St. Louis, Missouri. WWF champion Bob Backlund defeated Bulldog Bob Brown to retain the NWA World Champ. Harley Race successfully defended against Ric Flair. April 25th, 2000, a returning Stone Cold, out from neck surgery in November, returns and destroys the DX Express by dropping a steel beam on it, causing the bus to blow up. Only in Hollywood where the bus blow up from the steel beam dropping on it.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, but I guess I wonder if it was also the old Lex Express just spray painted with DX colors.
It could have been. I'm telling you, if I love demolition derbies, and if I ever got the chance to paint a bus for the bus demolition derbies, oh, I'm telling you, I would raise money so we could get that baby look just like the Lex Express.
That would be awesome.
All right. 22 years ago, April 25th, 2002, Randy Orton makes his WWF television debut with a win over Hardcore Holly at a SmackDown taping. 8 years ago, April 25th, 2014, WWE superfan Connor McCallick died of complications from brain and spinal cancer. He was just 8 years old. Connor would receive the very first Warrior Award in 2015, which was accepted by his father Steve and brother Jackson. And yeah, that always brings out the sadness because only 8 years old, but hey, he did make a mark.
Yeah, he was a really cute kid, and there's the video where he actually hits Triple H and pins him and stuff like that. And of course, he was at ringside for Daniel Bryan's victory at WrestleMania 30, and Bryan made a effort to go and see him before also celebrating during the ticker tape confetti falling from the ceiling. But he made sure to say hi to Connor and thank him.
Yep, and hey, little kid had a WrestleMania moment. 46 years ago, April 26, 1976, in New York City, Stan Hansen breaks Bruno Sammartino's neck during their WWF Championship match. The match was stopped by the referee due to excessive bleeding. Sammartino would retain, but at a price. Hansen would go on to claim his clothesline broke Hansen's neck, when in reality, it was a botched body slam that did the damage. 30 years ago, April 26, 1992, Sid Justice would wrestle his last match for a while in the WWF as he started his suspension for failing a drug test just before WrestleMania 8. His last match was a loss to The Warrior. He would end up leaving for WCW until his return in 95.
And hey, April serving a suspension that was just in time for softball season.
Yeah, that's right. 23 years ago, April 27, 1999, WWF taped the pilot episode of SmackDown from the New Haven Coliseum in New Haven, Connecticut. This was intended as a one-time special. However, UPN would pick it up as a series due to the high 5.8 rating it received. This show saw the formation of the corporation. The Big Show defeated Test in just 47 seconds. X-Pac and Kane defeated the New Age Outlaws, Mr. Ass and Road Dogg to retain the WWF Tag Team Championship. Ken Shamrock defeated Bradshaw in a no-holds-barred street fight. And Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock defeated the corporate ministry, which, of course, was The Undertaker and Triple H. 15 years ago, April 27, 2007, the first film from the WWE studios did a big belly flop at the box office with only $8.5 million. The Condemned starring Stone Cold Steve Austin would, however, recoup its losses and actually made money due to DVD sales of over $22 million.
And I have that DVD.
You're part of the $22 million. That's a lot of sales and DVDs.
Yeah, but I think it was a decent movie. Good concept. Could have been maybe better. Like it's definitely not one of those movies that probably deserve to go to the theater. But in today, 2022, that would be a great premiere on, say, Netflix or something like that.
Yeah.
And do great for them.
Yeah, a lot of those type of movies, especially starring wrestlers, they're not all bad. I've seen a couple of Steve Austin's movies, and he's a decent enough actor. And what they put him in, he fits in pretty good. I even seen Edge's movie that was a casino on a plane, and Kelsey Grammer was the bad guy. It's actually decent.
Yeah, I don't recall that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it came out, but I watched it probably. I'm not sure if I watched that here at one of the other places I've been at. But anyways, it was a pass. I gave it a pass.
Nice.
13 years ago, April 27th, 2009, in Charlotte, Reed Flair would face felony charges. This was due to driving impaired, a revoked license, and possessing heroin. This would end Ring of Honor's relationship with Reed and his father. 7 years ago, April 28th, 2015, in Illinois, Bad News Barrett defeated Neville in the final to win the 2015 King of the Ring tournament. Now, of course, by then, the King of the Ring tournament meant nothing.
True, but he did make a good king.
I like him. He's a good wrestler. Whatever gimmick they gave him, he did his best with it, and he's pretty good on commentary too.
Yeah, it's always been a shame to know what I think what could have been had Cena at least been willing to put over the Nexus at SummerSlam. But as soon as that didn't happen, it was all downhill from there. Thankfully, he was able to recover, and currently he's one of the commentators for NXT 2.0.
All right, 8 years. Oh, we're going to go into deaths now. 8 years ago, April 26, 2014, Marshall Aaron Meyer, a.k.a. Lee Marshall, dies of esophageal cancer in Santa Monica, California. He was 64. Of course, Marshall was a longtime radio announcer, including time in Canada up in Windsor, known as King News, and appeared in the West Coast Rap All-Stars video. We're on the same gang. Go check that out on YouTube. Not right now, but later. Can you hear new music in the background?
A little bit.
Okay, I'll turn that down if you want to do.
No, I'm not worried about it. In wrestling, Marshall was a host of AWA on ESPN for years and was the announcer for WrestleMania 2, the LA portion. I actually don't remember Lee Marshall being the announcer for that one, but in the mid-90s, he was part of the WCW broadcast team. He would also succeed Thurl Ravencroft as the voice of Tony the Tiger in 2005. He would continue to do voice work, including cartoons and while wrestling. 7 years ago, on April 27th, 2015, Laverne Clarence Gagne, also known as Vern Gagne, passed away at the age of 89. And 20 years ago, April 28th, 2002, Lou Thez dies of complications from triple bypass surgery in a hospital in Orlando, Florida. He was 86. And that'll take us to our Superstar Spotlight, the somewhat underrated Chris Candido.
All right. Do you want to do that one?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So Chris Candido passed away. What do we got here? April 28th. So today in 2005, he was the age of 33. He died from pneumonia due to a blood clot from surgery in New Brunswick, New Jersey. He was born March 21st, 1972 in Edson, New Jersey. He's a third-generation wrestler. His grandfather was Popeye Chuck Richards, who competed for the WWF. He would meet his...
sorry. Wrong Popeye.
Whoa. He ended up meeting Tammy Lynn Sitch while they were in high school, and they were high school sweethearts, basically up until he died, regardless of what happened on her side of things. While traveling the independent circuit, he would become lifelong friends with also Balls Mahoney. In 92, Candido and Sitch would join Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Then the next year for Eastern Championship Wrestling, holding tag titles twice with Johnny Hotbody and Chris Michaels, also known as the Suicide Blondes. In late 93, he would have his greatest success in Smoky Mountain Wrestling in both singles and tag action, teaming with Brian Lee. In November 94, Candido won a 10-man tournament to become the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. This was the first champion since Shane Douglas threw down the title in August of that year. Then by May 95, Candido and Sitch made their way to WWF television as Skip and Sonny. Tammy actually made it there first as Tamara Murphy, doing event news, but then all of a sudden that gimmick was done. He came in and they were the exercise gurus of Skip and Sonny, the Body Donnas. They ended up feuding with Barry Horowitz, who ended up getting his first televised win out of them instead of always losing, and feuded with them and Rod Radford. Hakushi got involved with that whole thing. After all that ended and the pairing with Radford and Skip didn't work out, he got put with Tom Pritchard, who ended up cutting his hair and becoming Zip of the Body Donnas, his kayfabe cousin. They ended up winning the tag titles at the end of the tournament on the pre-show of WrestleMania 12. And later on, Sonny would leave them, and they brought in Cloudy, a cross-dressing gentleman named James Haney, but that didn't last long either. But late 96, he ended up leaving to go to ECW and feud with Bam Bam Bigelow and Lance Storm, and even became tag team champions with Lance Storm. That whole odd couple, better as a team but hate each other type situation going on there. He ended up going to WCW, winning the Cruiserweight title, and was fired along with Sitch when she had issues with Kimberly, and I guess drug paraphernalia was also found. He'd wrestled for XPW in late 2005, joined TNA, and had a brief time been there. He broke his leg in a match against Sonny Siaki. During that time, he had to get the operation on his leg and rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, blood clot happened, and with pneumonia and everything, I guess they didn't send him home with any meds for to prevent infections, and he got the pneumonia and ended up dying, as I said, at the age of 33. So he was part of the Body Donnas, the New Blood in WCW, Planet Jarrett also in WCW, Suicide Blondes, and Triple Threat over in ECW. Trained by Larry Sharp, worked a lot of different places, Smoky Mountain, ECW, WWF, WCW, TNA, and NWA. It's a shame that at the age of 33 he is gone, but it's also a shame what his personal life was as far as his relationship with Tammy, not being really respected and kind of treated like a chump. And the guys in the locker room even sort of made fun of him because he was still devoted to Sonny. Meanwhile, she was doing every other guy, including Shawn Michaels, all over the place. So,
remember when Sonny came to town, and man, my father left with a big smile. All right.
But that is our superstar spotlight on the passing of Chris Candido.
All right, rest in peace there, big man. And speaking of big, going to big events, 34 years ago, April 22nd, 1988, WWF tapes the 16th episode of Saturday Night's Main Event in Springfield, Massachusetts, which would air 1 week later. Also, 3 episodes of Wrestling Challenge were taped and had the debut of ring announcer Mike McGurk. And for those who don't know Mike McGurk, that's a lady, and not a bad-looking lady, I must say. She was quite tall. Lots of lag.
Yeah, and she ended up dressing in the whole suit, like tuxedo with the tails and everything, and tried to be very old school in her presentation.
And man, Bobby Heenan had great fun with her. Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated Hercules by a DQ. Macho Man Randy Savage defeated One Man Gang to retain the WWF Championship. Demolition Axe and Smash defeated the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid by DQ to retain the WWF Tag Team belts. 22 years ago, April 22nd, 2000, ECW held the final CyberSlam. And 16 years ago, April 22nd, 2006, Ring of Honor presented the 100th show from Philly. Bryan Danielson would wrestle twice on the show, retaining the ROH World Championship both times. 16 years ago, April 23rd, 2006, TNA presented the Lockdown with every match on the show inside a steel cage. 17 years ago, April 24th, 2005, TNA presented the very first Lockdown where, of course, you know the story. The show was the final event for Chris Candido before his sudden passing less than a week later. During the opening match, Candido suffered a dislocated ankle, broken tibia, and broken fibula after taking a dropkick and landing on his leg awkwardly. 2 days later, he had an operation on his ankle, and a plate, screws, and pins were placed in his ankle. 3 days after the surgery, Candido collapsed and was rushed to hospital, where he was pronounced dead a short time later. The death was due to a blood clot from the surgery. No titles would change on the card. 33 years ago, April 25th, 1989, WWF taped the 21st edition of Saturday Night's Main Event from Iowa, airing May 27th. King Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated Ravishing Rick Rude by countout in a WWF IC match. Oh, poor Rick Rude.
He had stuck up a lot of garbage.
But you know, I do like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. After being attacked by Zeus, Hulk Hogan defeated the Big Boss Man in a steel cage match to retain the WWF Championship.
The Big Blue Cage.
Oh, the Blue Cage, yes. The Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, defeated Demolition Axe and Smash by DQ in a WWF Tag Team Championship match. 23 years ago, April 25th, 1999, WWF presented The Last in Your House, number 28, which was called Backlash. 12 years ago, April 25th, 2010, WWE presented Extreme Rules. 11 years ago, 2011, WWE presented the 2011 WWE Draft on the special edition of Raw. This would be the last draft until the brands would split again in 2016. John Cena would be traded twice, landing back on Raw. Also to Raw was Mysterio, Big Slow, and Alberto Del Jerko. To SmackDown was Randy Orton, Mark Henry, in Sin. Oh, he's going to hurt himself in the ring, Cara. 28 years ago, April 26, 1994, AAA presented Triple Mania 2, Part A, from Mexico. Triple Mania at this time was a series of events until 1997. 24 years ago, April 26, 1998, WWF presented In Your House 21, Unforgiven, from the Greensboro Coliseum.
Yeah, I think that's the one where they actually had the Kane versus Undertaker Inferno match.
Yeah, one of those visually cool, but it's just, wow, it's a lot of work and danger, and holy shit, that must have been hot. I mean,
yeah,
I was never there for those type of matches, but you know, we felt how hot the things from Kane can be, even when you're far away. You can feel that heat, and it's like, holy crap, if you're like right by ringside and that's going off.
Yeah, so imagine being at ringside when they were flaring up.
Scene in a standard hockey size arena, you can feel the heat from like the other side. So, oh man, they must have just been sweating balls in there.
I can only imagine. And they wear full gear. It's not like they're wearing trunks or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. 13 years ago, April 26, 2009, WWE presented Backlash. Another Backlash was 19 years ago, April 27th, 2003. They presented a Backlash, and that might be this. No, that's a different one. So, yeah. 14 years ago, April 27th, 2008, WWE presented another Backlash from Baltimore. And 8 years ago, April 27th, 2014, TNA presented Sacrifice. Ooh, one more event to go, I think, here. Oh, no, there is more.
A few more.
35 years ago, April 28th, 1987. Well, that doesn't make sense. Why is it? Oh, yeah, this is April. Gee, oh, man, because I've been doing ones ahead again. I'm all confused. 35 years ago today, April 28th, 1987, WWF taped Saturday night's main event, which aired 4 days later on NBC. Macho Man Randy Savage defeated George the Animal Steele in a lumberjack match. The British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith, and Dynamite Kid defeated the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart, to zip in a best-of-3 falls match for the WWF Tag Team Championship. However, the titles did not change hands because the first fall ended in a DQ win for the Bulldogs. Ricky Steamboat defeated Hercules by DQ to retain the WWF IC belt. And the Can-Am Connection, Rick Martel and Tom Zink, defeated Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik.
When Sheik was a lot more agile and able to get to the ring.
Yeah, the last few years he was wrestling, he was just waddling to the ring.
Yeah.
He probably could have played a pretty good penguin.
Oh,
27 years ago, April 28th, 1995, WCW and New Japan co-presented the two-day event, Collision in Korea from North Korea. Antonio Inoki defeated Ric Flair in the main event of Night 2.
Yeah, and I think this is a subject of the Dark Side of the Ring from this past season 3. And there's a lot of sketchiness going on politically with that whole thing. And even a guy like Scott Norton getting taken into custody and nearly shitting himself as he's calling his wife. Crazy times over there in Korea for that event.
Well, if I ever go to Korea, I'll make sure I don't go with wrestlers. 26 years ago, April 28th, 1996, WWF presented In Your House 7, Good Friends, Better Enemies. This would be the last televised event for Scott Hall and Kevin Nash before leaving for WCW. Mad Dog Vachon's prosthetic leg would be used as a weapon in the main event between Shawn Michaels and Diesel.
Always a fun moment when you see them going over and just grabbing Mad Dog and yanking, and next thing you know, you got a calf and a foot.
Oh my God, it was so funny. 10 years ago, April 28th, 2012, Extreme Rising presents its debut show. Extreme Reunion from Pennsylvania. This ECW type reboot was not received well, as Sabu and Just Incredible were kicked off the show because they were hopped up on goofballs and couldn't perform.
Why are we not surprised?
Yeah. Title changes. April 22nd, 2000, Rhino defeated Yashiro Tajiri to win the ECW World Television title. April 22nd, 2000, Dreamer defeated Taz to win the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. Taz will jump to the WWF. Also on that same show, Just Incredible then challenged Tommy Dreamer and wins the ECW Heavyweight Championship. Dreamer would hold the belt for less than 10 minutes. And did you know Dreamer is the only man to hold both versions of the ECW World belt? Did you
Fittingly so. He was a heartbeat of ECW.
Absolutely. 43 years ago, April 23rd, 1979, in Greensboro, Paul Jones and Ricky Steamboat defeated the Masked Superstar and Ken Patera to win the vacated NWA World Tag Team Championship.
Also known as Demolition Axe.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yes, the Masked Superstar. Actually, I like I like interviews with him. He sounds like a very, very smart man. 34 years ago, April 23rd, 1988, in Greensboro, Sting and Lex Luger defeated Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson to win the last Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament. The tournament would end when Turner bought JCP months later.
Yeah, the NWA now under Billy Corgan has been doing the Crockett Cup for the last couple of years and honoring that tradition.
Well, yeah, NWA has been around for so long. I think that's one promotion that will, I don't think, ever die. Yeah, and that's a good thing because it does have a huge, long history.
Yeah, you can get most of their shows on, I think, Fight Network, FITE, and their app is.
They don't show it on YouTube no more?
They had been doing YouTube, but I think they now are over on Fight.
I think I'm at Mr. Perfect and Tito. 32 years ago, April 23rd, 1990, in Austin, Texas, Mr. Perfect defeated Tito Santana in a tournament final to win the vacated WWF IC belt. The title was vacated when the Warrior won the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 6. 10 years ago, April 23rd, 2012, on Raw from Detroit, Nikki Bella defeated Beth Phoenix in a Lumberjill match to win the WWE Divas Championship. This made the Bella Twins the first sisters to hold the Divas Championship. 33 years ago, April 24th, 1989, Big Van Vader defeated Shinya Hashimoto to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in the Tokyo Dome at Superpowers Clash.
We got a lovely picture of him with his Mastodon mask.
Yes, and I'm telling you, at the Hall of Fame, I was so happy they actually had that thing there. Only a little disappointed that it didn't, have the pyro in it, but, I understand, especially where it was placed.
They didn't activate it, but at the same time, at least he showed it, and he never did use it in WWE, even though they also called him the Mastodon, but at least he got honored.
28 years ago, April 24th, 1994, at a WCW Saturday night taping, Ric Flair defeated Ricky Steamboat to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship at a WCW Saturday night taping. This was a rematch of the double pin result at Stampede between Flair and Steamboat.
Well, honestly say, I think I mentioned it on one of our last episodes. I looked back and found this on YouTube, and my God, it is not a classic in the least sense of the word. And you notice where the fact that there is WCW Saturday night that it's happening, and they're in Orlando, I believe, doing that one. And right facing the hard camera is like a bus tour of people, mostly kids, but they're all wearing the same T-shirt, so you can tell that they're on a bus tour of some sort. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And the crowd, this is totally the opposite of Hogan and Rock, where the crowd made that match. In this case, in WCW for Saturday night, they took away from this match, which could have been an amazing classic, because they were literally just tourists at a event that they got free tickets to because it was on the grounds. They didn't know or care who these guys were. And this is Steamboat Flair.
Yep. Again, it's television taping, and there was a lot of good matches on Saturday night, and a lot of people there didn't care.
Pretty sad.
22 years ago, April 24th, 2000, on WCW Monday Nitro, Diamond Dallas Page defeated Jeff Jarrett in a steel cage match to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Who wasn't winning the belt on that show by then? 30 years ago, April 25th, 1992, in Philly, Jimmy Snuka defeated Sal Belamo to become the first Eastern Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. April 25th, 1999, Al Snow defeated Hardcore Holly to win the WWF Hardcore Championship. 22 years ago, April 25th, 2000, at a SmackDown taping, Dean Malenko defeated Scotty 2 Hotty to win the WWF Light Heavyweight Championship. Crash Holly defeated Matt Hardy to win the WWF Hardcore belt. 22 years ago, April 25th, 2000, at a WCW Thunder taping in Syracuse, David Arquette shocks the wrestling world by becoming the WCW World Heavyweight Champion after making the pin in a tag match where DDP's title was on the line. Fans were not impressed as the next week's Nitro went down by some 600,000 views. Slamboree sales died, and the movie Ready to Rumble crapped out completely. However, the bright side is David Arquette donated his championship earnings to the families of Darren Drozdoff, who was paralyzed in 1999, Brian Pillman, and Owen Hart.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that about David Arquette and what he ended up doing. But then, because of how the fans and media and everybody crapped on him for winning the title and how it basically disgraced the belt and the lineage and all the history, which I totally get, but it wasn't his decision. And it was, I think Tony Schiavone actually took credit for it by just offhandedly saying it backstage. And the morons that were the powers to be actually went and did it. And they were trying to just promote Ready to Rumble as well, which was basically a WCW movie without being a WCW movie. But all that negativity did affect David Arquette in a way that it took him a long time to alleviate that bullying and everything that happened. Because if you end up seeing a documentary, and I believe it is on Netflix, if not, it's on Amazon Prime, one of the two. But it's called You Cannot Kill David Arquette. And he, even with all his heart issues and stuff like that they had after wrestling, he started learning to wrestle for real, toured through Mexico, wrestled in the middle of a street during a stop light, basically with other luchadors, made his way to a couple of stupid backyard backyard fights. Unfortunately, ran into Nick Gage of CZW, who did him dirty and nearly killed him. But there's a whole lot of things he did to learn how to be a wrestler and earn the respect of other wrestlers who thought he had done damage to the lineage and world of wrestling by just winning the title that night. So it's an awesome story. I definitely highly recommend going back and watching it. Like I said, you can't kill David Arquette, and it is almost a redemption story for him for winning the WCW championship.
I wish there was Mexican luchadors that would wrestle on my street corner.
Never know.
April 25th, 2010, Beth Phoenix defeated Michelle McCool in an Extreme Makeover match to win the WWE Women's Championship. 34 years ago, April 26, 1988, at an NWA Worldwide Wrestling taping in Chattanooga, the Fantasticks, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers, defeated the Midnight Express, Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane, to win the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. The win ends a 445-day title run for the Midnight Express. 30 years ago, April 26, 1992, in Philly, Johnny Hotbody defeated Jimmy Snuka to win the ECW Heavyweight Championship, which was one day after Snuka won it.
Hot potato.
Hot potato. April 26, 19... I'm sure they could somehow make that into a one of those kids' games, kind of like Hungry Hippos and, you know, all those other ones where the mechanism flips the thing. They could have one for wrestling where it's constantly changing titles. Anyways, April 26, 1994, Captain Lou would lead his fifth and final tag team to the WWF Championship. 15th. That's 1 in 5. As the Head Shrinkers, Fatu and Samu defeated the Quebecers to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. Albano guided some 13 teams to the WWF tag belts, including the Valiant Brothers, the Wild Samoans, the Yukon Lumberjacks, the Blackjacks, the Moondogs, the Masked Executioners, the U.S. Express, and the British Bulldogs. His teams combined for 15 championship wins, plus he himself, along with Tony Altamore as the Sicilians. That is the combined. 23 years ago, April 26, 1999, on WCW Monday Nitro, Sting defeated Diamond Dallas Page to win the WCW Heavyweight Championship. But wait! Later that night, he loses it in a fatal four-way with Nash and Goldberg, with DDP reclaiming the belt. And Rey Mysterio Jr. would defeat Psychosis to win the WCW Cruiserweight belt. April 26, 2009, Christian defeated Jack Swagger to win the ECW Championship. Legacy, which was Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase, defeated Triple H, Batista, and Shane McMahon. As Orton got the winning fall in the match, he won the WWE Championship. And Edge defeated John Cena in a last man standing match to win the World Heavyweight Championship. 41 years ago, April 27th, 1981, in Augusta, Georgia, Tommy Rich defeated Harley Race to win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. 35 years ago, April 27th, 1987, in Memphis, Austin Idol, with help from Tommy Rich, who hid under the ring drinking beer, defeated Jerry Lawler in a hair versus hair steel cage match to win the AWA Southern Heavyweight Championship. Austin Idol guaranteed his win by agreeing to refund the admission gate funds if he did not win. 30 years ago, April 27, 1992, at a WCW Saturday Night, Barry Windham defeated Stunning Steve Austin 2-1 in a best-of-3 falls match to win the WCW World TV belt.
I like when championships are defended in best 2 out of 3 falls. Yes. Make sure that the title is switching for a reason, not just a fluke.
And it lets it's more exciting because a lot of the times you'll go to the final fall, and that way a guy can lose but not lose much steam, so I do like those best out of 3, definitely. Not so much for tag team. I like a tag team just being one fall, but that's just because I'm not a huge fan of the tag team. I'd rather see single matches than any, tag team. Mind you, there are a lot of good tag team bouts out there, but I just...
Thank you, Vince McMahon.
Yes. April 27th, 2003, Jazz defeated Trish Stratus to win the WWE Women's Championship. April 27, 2008, Matt Hardy defeated Montel Votavius Porter to win the WWE United States Championship. Triple H defeated Randy Orton, John Cena, and John Bradshaw Layfield in a fatal 4-way elimination match to win the WWE Championship. 14 years ago, April 27, 2008, in Osaka, Japan, Keiji Muta defeated Shinsuke Nakamura to win the IWGP Heavyweight belt.
The Great Muta.
Great Muta. He went by a few different names and spellings of his last name.
Oh, yeah.
April 27th, 2004, Wolves, Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards defeated the Bromans, Jesse Godreds and Robbie E, and DJ Z in a no DQ handicap match to win the TNA World Tag Team belts. Angelina Love defeated Madison Rayne to win the TNA Knockouts Championship. And 25 years ago, April 28th, 1997, on Raw is More from Nebraska, Owen Hart defeats Rocky Maivia to win the WWF IC belt. Mm-hmm. Now, on to the Monday Night Wars, and it looks like we have a special one. It's WWE versus TNA, which happened on April 26, 2010. And I'm going to let Shawn run this whole thing down, unless he wants me to run the other one down. But I'm fine with him doing this whole one as he watched. Definitely, I think I've seen the TNA stuff, but I didn't see the WWE because I wasn't really following that. But I was interested to see what TNA was putting out. And wow, poor guys, bad decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that episode was April 26, 2010. The edition of Raw took place in Richmond Coliseum in Richmond, Virginia, and it was the draft lottery that happened that night. The Hart Dynasty defeated Show Miz to win the WWE Unified Tag Team Championships in 11 minutes and 38 seconds. Lay Cool, Michelle McCool, and Layla, who had Vicky Guerrero by their side, defeated Eve Torres and Maurice in just about 4.5 minutes. CM Punk defeated Evan Bourne in 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Raw saw with a team of MVP, Mark Henry, Ted DiBiase, Santino Marella, and Yoshitatsu defeated SmackDown, which consisted of Kane, Rey Mysterio, R-Truth, Drew McIntyre, and Shad Gaspar in a 10-man tag team battle royal. I believe that was for getting some picks for their side. And then we saw Chris Jericho defeat Christian in just under 10 minutes. Jack Swagger defeated John Morrison in 14:27. Hornswoggle defeated Dolph Ziggler. Yes, that's right. Hornswoggle defeated Ziggler in 38 seconds. And Batista defeated Randy Orton and Sheamus in a WWE Heavyweight #1 contendership match in 16 minutes and 47 seconds. As far as the draft went that night, over to Raw was John Morrison, R-Truth, Edge, and Chris Jericho. Moving over to SmackDown from Raw was Kelly Kelly, The Big Show, Kofi Kingston, and Christian. And, of course, if you don't remember, TNA Impact was up against Raw that night, with the main event seeing Abyss defeating Ric Flair in a Hall of Fame ring versus Hall of Fame ring match. Their ratings really sucked that night. I believe Abyss was defending the Hulk Hogan Hall of Fame ring. It was kind of crazy. Looking at that show, though, it did happen at the Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida. Madison Rayne, who had Lacey Von Erich and Velvet Sky by her side, defeated Angelina Love and Tara in a triple threat match to retain the TNA Knockouts Championship. And that was just over 8 minutes and 18 seconds that match took. Kazarian defeated Shannon Moore to retain his X Division Championship in just over 4 minutes. AJ Styles and Sting defeated Jeff Hardy and Jeff Jarrett in a Falls Count Anywhere match in 6 minutes and 15 seconds. I'm thinking, if you're doing a Falls Count Anywhere tag team, why is it less than 10 minutes at least? 6 minutes for a Falls Count Anywhere just doesn't mean anything to me. Jesse Neal, the replacement for Hernandez, and Matt Morgan defeated Team 3D, Brother Devon and Brother Ray, by disqualification to retain the TNA World Tag Team titles in 1 minute and 5 seconds. Team 3D lost in just over a minute. What is this garbage? And as I said a little while ago, Abyss defeated Ric Flair in a Hall of Fame ring versus Hall of Fame ring match in just over 5 minutes as your main event in this Monday Night War.
Yeah, it if they would have focused maybe on the wrestling and showed, hey, we got decent wrestling over here and shit like that, and not putting a spotlight on the old guys and matches that could have gone so much longer and been so much better. Ugh.
Yeah, I don't get it. And this is why they went back to Thursdays and unfortunately fell into somewhat obscurity where they're considered a joke. today, I love to catch some Impact Wrestling when I can. The matches are really good. The setting is off, but I've said it numerous times. Their biggest problem right now is they have that albatross of their history that lag behind them. If they had a different name and were doing the same thing today, they'd be probably recognized for being a decent product. But because people think TNA and also Dixie Carter and everything else that goes along with it, people just crap on it.
Yep. Time to cut that Pelican cord. Birthdays. April 22nd, we see Ezekiel Jackson turned 44, and Chuck Taylor joins him, and he turns 36. On the 23rd, Tony Atlas turns 78, Terry Gordy turns 61, and John Cena turns 45. Pardon me. April 23rd, Dominic Dejevkovic turns 35.
He's also known as T-Bar right now.
Oh, there you go. April 23rd, also Britt Baker turns 31, and Moose turns 38.
Yeah, the guy ended up having to drop his title to Josh Alexander on his birthday at the the Impact Wrestling show.
Bummer. April 24th, well, hopefully they gave him a good birthday cake. April 24th would have been the 106th birthday of Lou Thez. His real name is just Aloysius is his first name. April 26th, Kane turns 55, which is going to be our Superstar Spotlight. April 26th, also Crusher Jerry Blackwell turns 73. Amazing Red turns 40. On the 27th, Vladimir Kozlov turns 43. And on the 28th of April, Alex Riley turns 41, who is now known as, I can't remember. What's his name now?
I don't remember his new name. I know he also was on Glow last the third season of it before it got shut down. But
yeah. Anyways, he's doing quite well for himself right now. And Drew Gulak turns 35. And we're going to go to Shawn for the Kane Spotlight.
Yeah, so we got our other spotlight being Kane. The last couple of weeks, it looks like we've been doing the guys who had multiple gimmicks. Because we had Goldust 2 weeks ago. Last week was Brutus Beefcake or Ed Leslie. And this time it's Glenn Jacobs, who we've known as Angus King. Bruiser Mastino, he was in WCW for a small cup of coffee on like a WCW Power Hour or something like that.
Oh.
The Christmas Creature, dressed up as a Christmas tree, yes. The Fake Diesel, Doomsday, Isaac Yankem DDS, Corporate Kane, Mike Unabomb, Sid Powers, Spartacus, and Unabomb. The picture, for those watching or those listening and not seeing the picture up there, we have Isaac Yankem, the Fake Diesel, and his many looks of Kane. And we know him also right now as the mayor of Knox County. He actually showed up on this past week's Raw, where they were in Knoxville, the home of also Bianca Belair, but to celebrate Randy Orton's 20 years of being a WWE superstar. And so he was around there. But his birthday, as Chris said a little bit ago, April 26, 1967, turning 55 years old just a couple days ago. Trained by Dean Malenko, Jeff Bradley, and Ray Candy, debuted in 1992. He's worked for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, USWA, WCW, and, of course, the majority of his career with the WWF, WWE. Just so much to go with in this, but I don't want to go too in depth. But as you see on the right-hand side of the screen, he was star of See No Evil as Jacob Goodnight, both parts 1 and 2. I have not seen number 2, but I remember Jonesy and I going to see the first one and being one of the up near the front and just laughing at what was going on. I'm not a fan of horror movies, but every time Jacob Goodnight came on, it was just like, yes, I want one of these little kids to die because all of them were so obnoxious that they deserved to go. And I was rooting for Jacob Goodnight the whole time. But so he was doing that. He's part of, obviously, the greatest WWF storyline in history with The Undertaker being the fried up brother, but it turns out it was just mainly emotional and psychological scars. But who wouldn't have those if your father is Paul Bearer after being conceived apparently in the mortuary? But yes, amazing storyline with them. Titles, he was Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champion with Al Snow. One-time USWA Heavyweight Champion. Of course, almost everybody was if your name wasn't Jerry Lawler, because you got to do it to give it back to Jerry. One-time WCW Tag Team Champions. That was with The Undertaker in once the belts made it to WWE after the sale. One-time ECW champion. So that was when he won a match, the opening match at a WrestleMania, and then took out Chavo later on in the night to get that. One-time WWF champion, just one night when he ended up winning the first blood match against Steve Austin, dropped it to him the next night. But of course, how do you lose a first blood match when your whole body is covered by your ring gear and wearing a leather mask? So it was almost inevitable that he was going to win that. He's a one-time World Heavyweight Champion, two-time WWE Intercontinental Champion, one-time WWE Hardcore Champion, one-time 24/7 Champion, two-time WWE Tag Team Champion, 9-time WWF World Tag Team Champion, and that takes in, I believe, with guys like Mankind, Big Show, the Hurricane, our Rob Van Dam was one of them. So many different guys.
Him and X-Pac, did they ever win it?
Him and X-Pac won it, I believe, twice.
Ah.
I'd have to scan down to the list of all the championships, because I am going to actually talk about one thing that is there. So, yeah, it was twice with Mankind, twice with X-Pac, twice with The Undertaker, once with Hurricane, Rob Van Dam, and Big Show. So a lot of different partners he was put in there with. He won the 2010 Money in the Bank, got inducted into the Hall of Fame last year, 2021. He had his mask beside him on the podium, and of course, a two-time Slammy Award winner for various things. Now, this is where it's kind of interesting. 30 years of his career, basically, since he's debuted in 92. And there's been maybe a little more negative than positive. Over on the positive side of things, with Pro Wrestling Illustrated, he got Feud of the Year with Daniel Bryan as a member of the Authority in 2013, feuding with him. Most Hated Wrestler in 2013 as a member of the Authority. Tag Team of the Year, though, in 99 with X-Pac. And, of course, ranked number 4 in the PWI 500 singles in 2011. Now, looking at some of the negative in just a second. It's our good old friend Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, supposedly voted on by the fans as well. But some of the things that stand out here: most disgusting promotional tactic. 1996, the fake diesel. Once again, in 2002, being accused of murder and necrophilia by Triple H. And one more time in 2004, the pregnancy, wedding, miscarriage angle with Lita. Excuse me. So many different things that was negative on him. Carrying on with more negativity, thanks to Dave Meltzer, was a Wrestling Observer's most overrated wrestler in 2010, 14, and 15. Worst feud of the year against Triple H in 2002. Worst feud of the year was Shane McMahon in 2003. Worst feud of the year 2004 against Matt Hardy and Lita. Worst feud of the year 2007 versus Big Daddy V. Worst feud of the year 2008 against Rey Mysterio. And again in 2010 against Edge. 2012 against John Cena. 2013 with the Authority angle versus Big Show. Worst gimmick was 96 as the fake Diesel. Worst worked match of the year 2001 with The Undertaker and him teaming against Chronic at Unforgiven. And topping it all off, and people will agree on this one, I gotta at least give credit with this one. The worst worked match of the year 2018 from Saudi Arabia, the Brothers of Destruction against DX. That was just a train wreck when the guy who was out of the ring the longest, Shawn Michaels, was the best performer of that match. Triple H got injured, Taker was off his game, and Kane ended up losing his mask and wig partway through the match and had to put it back on. It was just a train wreck of a match. If you're ever interested in seeing a whole match of Botchamania, go check out that trip to Saudi Arabia. But let's talk about the good things with Glenn Jacobs. He is the mayor of Knox County. Great career with some hiccups, obviously. For 30 years, he finally found his stride with the Kane gimmick. So happy birthday to Glenn Jacobs, the mayor of Knox County, turning 55 just a couple days ago.
And that picture of him as the mayor there, that reminds me, he looks there kind of like Richard Mole that played Bull on Night Court.
Yeah, I can see that. I chose this one because he was actually in a suit as opposed to imagining Glenn Jacobs in a sweater vest. Almost Mean Street Posse clothes.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to see him in a ugly Christmas sweater.
Oh, it's probably happened.
Yeah. I could actually see him as an old man wearing a lot of plaid.
Scary. Yeah.
All right.
So over to you to wrap this all up.
And of course, that is it for this week in wrestling history, which of course is compiled from the vast land of Google, Wikipedia, CageSideSeats.com, and from fans and journalists that had front row seats to history. And as always, a big thank you to our sponsor, Coolbet, Coolbet.com, and sports book betting and casino games. Go give them a check. Stay cool and bet responsibly. And as always, thanks to all of our genres listeners and another one of our sponsors, Hammerlock Premier Wrestling.
Yeah, and we have another show bringing back the golden age of pro wrestling, Saturday, May 14th, from the Saxonia Hall in Elmer, Ontario. Tickets are just $20. Doors open at 6 p.m., 7 p.m. for bell time. I'll be debuting as the ring announcer. CC Moss is making her debut with Hammerlock Pure Wrestling, and so many more great matches are going to happen during that. We thank Hammerlock Pure Wrestling for their sponsorship of our shows and, of course, my employment. But, yeah, go check them out. And as I said, this weekend here in London, go to the Ramada Inn, just off the 401, and the whole hotel, I believe, is cleared just for people to attend Shockstock weekend. It's been a while since they've been able to do it, but everything is back to somewhat normal. You got your independent horror flicks. You got your karaoke on Friday night. There's the dance party with DJ Philo. There's also the tape traders. So many different things. Rocco has his hot sauce and much more. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, and they have a live show in the ballroom there on the Saturday. My guess it starts probably around 8. I'm not sure of all the bands, but I believe B.A. Johnson is back hosting it. And of course, Sprocket Damage, it will be appearing. And they've had one practice since COVID started, apparently. So they should sound quite good.
Oh, yeah. And hopefully they don't break up during their performance. But yeah, so many different things going on. Check it out. Shockstock. You don't want to miss it. If you're a fan of independent movies, horror movies, they are the place to go. It is Shockstock Weekend. Ramada Inn. Check out their website. And it's the Grimm Brothers production. Can't go wrong. And we give a shout out to our original scumbags over there at Shockstock. So until then, have a great night, great weekend, and we will see you all next time on our show.
All right.